Okay, Tampa is big. And when I say Tampa, I mean like the greater Tampa area. But let me explain it in some ways that I think will really help you understand it. And if you're thinking about moving to the area, this video is going to help you understand the whole Tampa area in a way broader way so that you can shorten your ability to know exactly where you want to land. Here we go. I'm Sam, and I've been making these videos for you guys for the past 4 years to help you understand exactly where you want to land in the Tampa area, to tell you what it's like to live here, to tell you what it's like to move here, to help you understand different areas that could work perfect for you. And this video is just going to pull back the zoom a little bit. We're going to look at the map a bunch. I love looking at maps with you guys and breaking down the area in a couple different criterias, because we might say somewhere's close to the beach and you think it's way too close. We might say that area is like very rural and you might think it's not. You might just think it's very suburban. And so let me just kind of show you on the map some of these different areas and how we think of them. All right, we're gonna go right to the map. All right, here we are on Google Maps. This is a fun way for me to do it because I can really show you a lot of different things. Tampa sits right there, kind of in the middle of the Gulf Coast, the west coast of the state of Florida. Very well known because of this big peninsula that has created the Tampa Bay right up in here. As we come in closer, let me just kind of explain what Tampa is and what it isn't, just in terms of the area. In the beginning, there was one county. It was Hillsborough County, and it was like this. It went across here, over past Plant City, down here, right around here. And this all was one county. Now, of course, it like went along the borders of the water, but you get it. Now this is two counties. So now you have Hillsborough on this side and Pinellas County over here. So this is Pinellas County right over here. 1 million people live in Pinellas County, and it is a very loved place. Gotta find exactly where this line is. It's kind of right in the middle of this preserve. Something like that. Then you got Hillsborough County over here. Hillsborough County is about 1.5 million people, and it is where the city is. This line goes right over here in between Plant City and Lakeland. These are even with each other right here. Then to the north here, we have Pasco County, all the way over here. Just north of all this, that is Pasco County. A little over 500,000 people in Pasco County. So we've got 1.5 million here. We've got 1 million here. And then we've got 0.5 million here. So quite a bit of people, and these population numbers are always a little rough. I get that. I like to know the populations of places, so I always share it with you guys. Now, often if you look up the Tampa MSA, the Metropolitan Statistical Area, it's going to include this area up here as well, Hernando County. I honestly don't love to include Hernando County because it's very different. And we'll explain the differences between some of these counties, but Hernando County is often quite a bit more different than the others. So you can see they're pretty connected, but you see the beaches over here. Tampa claims these as their beaches, as they should. It is all part of the same area. The beaches over here, the city and the airport over here, and the Tampa airport really being super central in the whole area. So as we talk about distances, we'll even look some up here. I like to make the airport the anchor very often because it is very central to the whole area. So when we talk about the distance from, Clearwater Beach to Tampa, we're just gonna go to the airport because all of these areas have Tampa addresses as well, even though they're not part of Tampa proper, the city. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the edges of this area. Obviously these edges make sense where the water is. When we talk about the Tampa area, what are the other edges? So the county line is right around here, right? Just goes right over Willow. And this area gets very rural out here. But we sell plenty of houses in Apollo Beach and Ruskin, in Sun City, out here in Waimama. There's Waimama. Some of these towns are just small little neighborhoods almost, but they are part of the Tampa area. So one of our clients that lives in Waimama, he actually commutes to St. Petersburg for work. So every edge of the Tampa area has its benefits. As we go out to the east, out here toward Plant City, the Tampa area really starts to cut off right around here in Dover, Valrico. Once you get out into Plant City is really its own little town. As you go further north on the east side over here, these edges are a little confusing as well. So Hillsborough County being right here, but there is a lot of state park right here. So you have the Hillsborough River State Park, and you have a lot of just preserved land. Florida is very particular, especially where there is water that changes based on storms and based on seasons, to preserve this wetland. This is home to a lot of wildlife and plant life. It's super important to these systems. Now, part of this area right over here is being developed. It's the new Two Rivers community, which I have a video coming out about soon. But this Two Rivers is really kind of the far east side of Hillsborough County, because this becomes forest. But up into Pasco County, that border being right here, you see County Line Road. This goes straight across. That is the border of the county. And Two Rivers will go in two counties. And so we'll talk about a few other towns that are in two counties as well. On the far east side of Pasco County is Zephyr Hills, still very much part of the Tampa area. But then you get up here into Dade City, which I wouldn't even consider part of the Tampa area at this point. It feels so far out there, but it is the county seat of Pasco County. Now let's talk for a second. What would make something not part of the Tampa area? In my opinion, if it's too far to commute from. Now, I get it. Some people are comfortable commuting a long ways. Our clients are not looking at commutes this far, I promise you. So to commute down to the airport, we'll just say, we're gonna go Dade City to Tampa Airport. From Dade City to the Tampa Airport takes about 1 hour. Now, not too crazy, and it's a lot of highway you drive on, it's interstate, and not too crazy. Obviously, that's still the airport they would use. They're not gonna go to a different airport, but it is a bit far. So Dade City kind of being the top corner of the area, but let's keep going along that north edge. Let's go back to the map here. Up here on the north side, here's Dade City, here's San Antonio. San Antonio being kind of the edge of this Wesley Chapel area. Obviously, it's its own town, but there's not much to it, mostly neighborhoods. But this neighborhood, Murata, that many would think is in Wesley Chapel, is technically in San Antonio. But this Highway 52 is not quite the far north side of the county. Highway 52 goes all the way across, and we'll talk about some of the main roads here in just a second. But a lot of this is just very rural. Now, maybe it would be considered part of the Tampa area. I would still consider it part of the Tampa area, but a lot of this is super rural. As we come all the way across Pasco County, we're over here in Hudson. Hudson, I was actually at the airport recently, and the bartender commutes from Hudson to the airport every single day. So I know people do it, but it is one of the roughest commutes depending on where you live in Hudson, because this road, US 19, is very unpleasant to drive on for very long. Now, these edges make sense, right? This edge is the water. Sorry, that was behind my head there. These borders make a lot of sense. So this is Newport Richey. I live kind of right in this area, in a more rural area, but my commute to the airport is right down here on Ridge Road. I go all the way across to the Veterans Expressway, which takes me right to the airport. Not all commutes are created equal, especially when we have big obstacles like water to get around. And we'll get into that a little bit. But let's look at the main roads for just a second. Let's go main north-south from the beginning We're gonna go from the south edge here, 275. And we're gonna draw on the map here a little bit. So 275 goes all the way down here. This is the Skyway Bridge. It goes through St. Petersburg, goes all the way here, goes across the bay. It does all kinds of crazy things. Goes across kind of Midtown Tampa, and then starts going north through Tampa Heights, Seminole Heights, and then through like the USF area. As it gets up here close to Lutz though, it jogs over. This becomes, it's like a State Road 41. Then 275 goes over here until it merges into I-75. I-75 runs right through Wesley Chapel and then on up to the north. I-75 goes all the way up to like the north of the country. So that's the main north-south when it comes to like a big stretch. Now we have others that are not as big of a stretch. Like this one right here is Veterans Expressway. Super valuable toll road. We do not have like a looping toll road like a lot of big cities have. Because we have this big chunk of water in the way, we can't have a loop like this, even though that would be very nice. You know, cities like Houston or like Denver have these loops and they work really well. We can't really do that here. So Veterans Expressway, which is extending up further up all the way through the state eventually, is that path over there. But I-75, if it's not going through like central Tampa and breaking off into 275, I-75 keeps going all the way down to the south side of the state. We went down to Naples recently as a family and took I-75 pretty much the whole way. Goes all the way down. So 275 is really just this stretch that goes through St. Petersburg and Tampa. The rest of it is 75. It's just this little jog off of that goes through these areas. When we look at east-west, our main road across the whole area is Highway 60. This is also known as Gulf to Bay. It goes all the way over to Clearwater Beach over here. It's just Clearwater Beach. And then goes all the way through South Tampa. And this is the border of the northern border of South Tampa. When we talk about South Tampa, that is this peninsula right here. We'll get into explaining these areas a bit more too. Highway 60 also is known as Kennedy. Going through here goes right above downtown and then goes all the way over and keeps going out of the Tampa area. Up here on the north side, I'm going to start on the north and we're just going to go down. We have Highway 52, state highway that goes across here, which is on the northern side of Pasco County. Then we have Highway 56, which merges into Highway 54. Right here is where that merge happens, and 54 goes up here and over. I don't really know why that happens, but 54 goes all the way across, and this is what touches a lot of the newer suburbs, and it goes all the way over here to the west side of US 19. Most of the newer suburbs touch this. This is kind of their main corridor through Pasco County, through the southern side of Pasco County. It is, 3 lanes on each side, 3 or 4. It probably gets to 4 sometimes. There's a lot of development along this path. Over here in Pinellas County, our main path through here is US 19, which is awful. It is awful. US 19 does all kinds of weird things. And it comes down here, there's an alternate route, and then there's a regular route, and it doesn't always make sense. There's an alternate over here as well, but US 19 goes north and south in the most densely populated county in the state, Pinellas County. The reason it is so bad though is because it's fast and slow, and there's a bunch of lights on it, and it is not a true highway in that sense. Now there's all kinds of little connections along here from this commute path over to 275 faster now, and then over to the bridge if you need to get across the bridge. That is a toll bridge, and this one's not, and this one's not, and then that connects to the Selman Expressway. If you want to make this jog over here, that is a toll road that connects kind of the Brandon area across the downtown Tampa area and then over to St. Petersburg. So none of those roads really go truly north and south or truly east and west, except for the ones up in Pasco County. And it's a little bit of a mess, honestly. As I look at it, it kind of stresses me out. And it is complicated to understand. I was in a part of Clearwater right here by Dunedin today, and I couldn't figure out my way without using my GPS. And I've lived here a while now, and I pride myself on not always using my GPS, but couldn't do it. Okay, now I want to talk about a couple popular areas. Now, we don't really have a most popular town or a most popular neighborhood. When it comes to our clients, everybody has very different goals. And I like to talk about it like everybody has a different anchor. What is the most important thing to you? It's a certain distance from the beach, or it's a certain kind of house, or it's a certain feel in your neighborhood. So we're gonna talk around some of those dynamics, but once you're here, you're gonna experience everything a little differently as well. And let me give a quick example of that. So one area that is very loved, especially by the people that live there, is called West Chase. West Chase is this area right here. Most of West Chase was built in the late 2000s or early 2000s. It's kind of a master planned vibe. The whole area was developed by one developer and multiple builders. There's one neighborhood here that nearly touches the West Chase area, but it's technically in Odessa. It is this neighborhood, the Eagles. This neighborhood is a golf course community, nice gated neighborhood, and then where it goes up here to the Odessa area, there's another new neighborhood, and it is called Victoria Lakes. Victoria Lakes is like right here. Victoria Lakes really is interesting to me. I thought it would be more popular than it is, but it feels kind of far from everything. And I've made a couple videos about Victoria Lakes. They're linked up above if you want to check those out. But even though this is kind of in the middle of this whole area, it's quite a bit more rural in some of these areas than you might think. So West Chase, super popular area, but as it's kind of expanding out, not as popular as I would think. Another area that you'll visit if you're here that not a lot of our clients end up living in is South Tampa. South Tampa gets to claim Hyde Park as part of their thing, and Soho and the Air Force Base, and there's a lot of cool stuff in South Tampa, and this is kind of old money along the water, really cool old houses, some super modern houses, some really like charming, interesting neighborhoods, and has that really urban, suburban feel where you live in a normal house with a garage, but you're in the middle of it. When I think about the other popular areas, I think of them in big chunks. If you need to be close to the busyness of town, but you want to live in a more suburban kind of feel, you're typically looking at this section of the map right here. Maybe over into Oldsmar. Oldsmar's technically in a different county, but you're typically looking at this area right here. Those are kind of the suburbs closest to everything. As you get into other areas, it feels a bit more disconnected from the city. And those areas I would put in big chunks. If you want to live close to the beach, you got to go way over here. But even a lot of these places are closer than you might think. If you wanted to live in St. Petersburg, which is a pretty big town, it's 250,000 people right along here. If you lived in Shore Acres, super cool neighborhood over here by Snell Isle, a drive to the beach is going to take 15-20 minutes. And outside of St. Petersburg, the south side of Pinellas County feels pretty similar. St. Petersburg has kind of its own vibe, and this little Gulfport area has its own like beach town vibe. But you get the beach town vibes over here, and then you have just kind of towns. Some of these are just older neighborhoods, older industrial areas, a lot of development, a lot of work, a lot of families, a lot of people live there, but it's just kind of all similar to itself. As you go north in Pinellas County, it changes a little bit, and we enter another chunk of places, really from Tarpon Springs all the way down to like the north side of Clearwater. All feels pretty similar. The way that it's like the south side of Pinellas County is that you have towns that have kind of central hubs, it's like their own little downtowns. It's not just kind of sprawling suburb. But the way that it feels different is it just feels a lot slower than the south side of Pinellas County. A lot more families, high-rated schools in some of these areas, and just a lot of family-style neighborhoods. And when we talk about the north suburbs, we really start going up here into Pasco County and a little bit of Hillsborough County. We're really talking about this whole area right here. even over here into Newport Richey nowadays. This big section is the north suburbs, and then it just depends on exactly where you want to be over here. If you want to be closer to the water, you're looking over here at the Trinity area. If you want to be super central, you're typically looking at Odessa. We've got great neighborhoods like Starkey Ranch and Astoria right here. If you want the best schools, you're typically looking down here near Cheval, typically right in here. We have Cheval, we have Villarosa, we have Heritage Harbor, and then over here we have Stonebriar. These access some of the best public schools in the state. Then if you want the more like the newer kind of suburb feel, you're typically looking out here into Wesley Chapel. Now, New Tampa is this section right here, which is technically part of Tampa, but it does have the more spread out suburban feel. Nice neighborhoods with pretty entrances, and you can see some of that drone footage there. Tampa Palms being one of those big neighborhoods. And then a lot of other newer ones like K-Bar Ranch where they're still building right now. Now, as this new neighborhood, Two Rivers, gets developed out here, this area is going to change a little bit. And I mentioned your anchor earlier. Now, your anchor could be a lot of different things. Typically, it has to do with what you want to be close to. And usually what people want to be close to is their job. So depending on where you work, not all commutes are made equal, just like you saw that map. And you probably could guess that based on when I started trying on all the roads, the main like north, south, east, west roads. Like having an easy commute to work is a little rare if you are having to commute very far in the Tampa area. So that is something that we usually like to dig into quite a bit. I actually talked to a client that currently lives in West Chase, but just got a new job in Brandon. Let's actually go back to the map so I can explain why that is challenging. Now, he would love to stay in the West Chase area, right over here. They love it. But his job is out here. It's like right here. So this is a pretty rough commute across town. It just is. Now, there is the Selman Expressway right here. So he's like, maybe we could be, closer if we're like, maybe somewhere in South Tampa or something, we could be closer to that so it's an easier commute. But since he's been here a few years already, he knows that commuting in and out of the Brandon area can be a major slowdown. And this is probably the area that slows down the most. Now, if you're coming from a big city, like you're not gonna think our traffic is bad. Once you're here for a while, obviously you get used to what you get used to, and you see it get a little bit worse year after year. In most of the Tampa area, it's following typical commute times. In the morning, that 3-hour window in the morning and 3-hour window in the late afternoon, the traffic is going to slow you down 30 to 40%. Now, if you're in the Riverview, Brandon area, it could slow you down quite a bit more. As we wrap up here, let me just talk about the 3 most common vibes that people are looking for when they're moving here. Number 1 is some kind of beach town feel. Now, I'm not saying like walking distance to the beach. We actually have a listing coming up that's literally walking distance to the beach. It's super cool. Not many people want that. Most people think of that as like a vacation house. They're not thinking of it like living there every single day, especially if you're young and have a family. Like you're not thinking like that. But you can have a beachy feel in a lot of the towns in Pinellas County. Whether you're in, Bel Air or Clearwater, Dunedin, Palm Harbor, down in Gulfport, up in Tarpon Springs, you can have that kind of beachy vibe in a lot of those areas. And one of the big benefits of those towns too is they have like central little downtowns. Even if it's not that big, like Bel Air Bluffs is a great example. It's not that big of an area, but it still has kind of a hub in the middle of it. Another thing people often are asking us is just helping them figure out what commute to settle for. And that is something we love. You've seen me nerd out today about the map. We love getting into your specific scenario, your specific drive time. A lot of our clients work in the medical field, so sometimes their times are a little different and they can kind of control it. Or maybe they're typically driving at 3 a.m. or different times, and this commute traffic isn't a bother to them at all. But we start to piece together all these things with the feel you want, with the schools that are important, with the commute time, and we can kind of piece it together. And that gets me to the final vibe that people are often asking for, and it's this safe neighborhood with good schools. And we can find those very easily. We start to bring in the other factors like how far out do you want to go? Obviously, the newer master plan suburban style areas have both of those things really easily. But in all of these areas, we can find a safe neighborhood with decent schools. And I say decent because our schools aren't like super highly rated. Now there's a couple that are, but often when our clients move here from California or New Jersey or Illinois or certain places like this where their schools are at a certain level, ours just aren't quite at that same level. Maybe that's why homeschooling has gotten so popular in Florida. There are a lot of charter schools now though that are to a different standard. Obviously a lot of private schools available, but that's not always in everyone's budget. Okay, so if you're thinking about moving to the area, obviously we want to hear from you, but this is kind of where I wanted you to start, kind of understanding the map a little bit more. What are we talking about when we talk about close to the beach, when we talk about the north suburbs, when we talk about South Tampa? What are those places and what are they like? This kind of basic framework I think is really helpful, but then identifying your big anchor. What is the thing that's most important to you in this move? What do you want to be close to? Like, why are you making the move? And then how can we accommodate all of those goals at once is a super fun part of our process. So if you made it to the end of the video, we definitely want to hear from you. Give us a call, text, or email anytime. Thanks for coming by.